If you've got painful joints, is your energy really low and sluggish? You're really missing this kind of get up and go. Well, in the latest episode of Energy Updates, I'm chatting with Dr. Shivani Gupta all about the similarities with Chinese medicine and Ayurveda and how we can reduce pain and inflammation in the body. I really enjoyed chatting with Dr. Shivani and seeing the very many similarities between Ayurveda and Chinese medicine to create health and balance within the body so that you can be pain-free and full of energy to live your best life. So we're talking about kind of reducing pain.
Yeah.
And so I thought we would kind of explore perhaps the similarities and the differences between Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, because I'm really interested to hear how Ayurveda perceives pain.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I teach gut health, Ayurveda, circadian rhythm, turmeric and ginger and the super spices, and then self-care. But I'd love to have a discussion. I don't know that much about the Chinese medicine approach, but I very much send everyone to acupuncture and Chinese medicine practitioners because both systems are so similar, and you never know which one is better for someone. So it's always good to say, look, try my way, try that way. One of them should work on you. Like one of them will work.
Yes, exactly. So welcome to the Qi Flow with Jo podcast. And today we're going to be chatting all about reducing pain. We're chatting with Shivani Gupta and obviously myself, Joanne Faulkner, and I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. And Shivani, so for Chinese medicine, the idea of reducing pain would be either from a stagnation of qi and blood, because qi and blood are not moving. Qi being energy, blood being the yin part. The qi is yang, the blood is yin. And so pain occurs either because it's not moving because there's a blockage, or it's not moving because we don't actually have enough blood or enough qi. So simply put, I mean, there would be lots of different reasons as to why we get the blockages, perhaps inflammation, gut health. So how would you view that in your practice?
You know, in Ayurveda, which is also a system of medicine that's over 5,000 years old, we look at the body and health as one system, and everything's interconnected. And so it's so important to look at, like you said, we talk about stagnation, lymphatic being stagnated, the system being stagnated. And we also talk about that flow. We talk about meridians. We talk about circadian flow, the body being in flow, everything moving where it needs to go, nutrition and assimilation. We teach a concept called ama, or toxins, and how this toxin buildup throughout the body causes inflammation and really causes the body to be battling with itself. And so I love how synergistic and beautiful Chinese medicine and Ayurveda are, because they're both saying very similar things, which is our job is to bring body, mind, and spirit into alignment. Our job is to create that flow in our lives and then maintain it. And there are times where we're going to get thrown off the horse and things are going to stagnate, build up, and then we can just release that and detox it out of the system and bring ourselves back to that vibrant health.
Exactly, that detox, not only from the food we eat and the environment we're in, but also our stress response to that environment. So emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of those coming in. And so I'm interested when you said the accumulation of toxins. In Chinese medicine, we would see that often as the liver being the kind of area where at night when we lie flat, the blood doesn't obviously stop circulating, but it begins to pool in the liver and become detoxified there. And the liver is said to be in charge of the smooth flow of blood and emotions. And where does the system of organs and liver fit in with Ayurveda?
So in Ayurveda, we teach a concept called the doshas. And the doshas are based on our individual mind-body constitution, and they're based on the elements. elements. And so just like in Chinese medicine, you're very tied to nature. In Ayurveda, we teach that nature is everything. We are from nature, we are of nature, and nature is the ultimate healer of us. So we take those 5 elements. In our case, the 5 elements are fire, water, air, and ether. And I believe in Chinese medicine, you guys talk about wood and metal and other elements. So in our 5 elements, the way it was taught is a Vata person is dominated by the tendencies of air and ether. This is someone whose body is going to be thin and wiry. They're going to have a tendency towards longer features. Personality-wise and with their mind, they're always going to be in motion. They're like an Energizer bunny. And with their food and their sleep, they're going to have disturbed sleep, disrupted gut health, and things like that. Pitta people, and what's interesting is each person, each type of dosha is going to have certain disease tendencies. They're going to have certain body tendencies, mind tendencies, emotional tendencies. And so when we talk about stagnation, we break that down further into which dosha are you to understand where could it be coming from? Where's the seat of it coming from? So for example, a pitta person, I'm a pitta. Pitta means fire with some water. So a pitta person, more medium bodied, fiery red hair, usually reddish skin tone, early graying in the hair. This is someone who's got like a go-getter, ambitious type of personality. They want to change the world. They want to create big things. Pitta people can tend to explode, erupt. We get jealous. We get frustrated. We get hangry. So that same Pitta person, we look at the colon as like, okay, what's going on? That's usually where you're going to start things, where you're going to manifest them first. And that would be where we look at. And then finally, Kapha people are earth energy. That's earth with water. So this is someone who's bigger boned, stronger, round features, round curly hair. They have a more sluggish metabolism. And so we would support them differently and say, look, you're already coming in with this metabolism that needs support. Let's get you moving in nature more, giving you more warming foods, not hard to digest cold foods. We'd approach them by saying, let's rev up the metabolism, remove the energy, really get in flow, get that chi energy flowing first thing in the morning, and then go through your day. And when you stop, you're done. Just that's it. Kapha energy is earth. So once it's grounded again, it's not going to move. So,
Wow.
from Ayurveda, we look at it from that lens.
That's so similar to earth people, a stomach and spleen. And the time of day in Chinese medicine for stomach and spleen is 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 9 till 11. And we would definitely be saying, if you have weak spleen energy, you need to have warm food. Don't have a cold breakfast. Don't be having smoothies, because these lead to dampness in the body. And dampness, actually, I wonder what you think about this, because dampness is definitely something that I see as a cause of inflammation and pain. So we use these kind of climates. So a damp person would have actually probably overeaten sugar, refined carbs, looking for that satisfaction and comfort. And it's a bit like when you have a damp room, you can't heat it, you can't move that. So you were calling that, so for in Chinese medicine, that would be the climate of damp with a weak stomach and spleen, and you were calling that
Kapha. And it's interesting because we have times of day as well. So we teach that like Kapha time of day is 6 to 10. So 6 to 10 in the morning, it's cool, it's heavy, it's earthy. And then in the evening, we call it Kapha time of day because our job is to wind down and not rev up. And Pitta is always 10 to 2 on the clock. So 10 to 2 in the daytimes when you've got that fire and you can digest your biggest meal of the day. It's when you can get your most activity done. It's like your king of digestion type of time of day. You're hot, sharp, and fiery. And then at night, you can leverage 10 to 2 on that circadian clock to digest and clean out and clear everything. So we want everyone sleeping 10 to 2 to leverage it to clear and move things. And then Vata is 2 to 6. That's more airy and dry and light. And so that's why our sleep is lighter, 2 to 6. And then during the day, we're kind of all over the place. So it's important to like keep grounding if we want to be productive in our 2 to 6 slot.
Mm. So if we were come back to dampness from terms of Chinese medicine, what would you, apart from kind of reducing the sugars and the refined foods, what other things would you be suggesting to kind of clear that dampness for the spleen, so for the kapha person, and improve circulation and reduce pain?
In our case, we would start with what are the things that easily reduce that dampness or ama toxin, like accumulation in the body. So we would start with something as simple as using a copper tongue scraper. In Ayurveda, we teach that all the organs of the body are reflected on the tongue, just like in reflexology, they're all reflected on the bottom of the feet. So very much similar sister philosophies in that way. So we would recommend using a tongue scraper gently 7 to 14 times, because you could have this like coating, white coating on the tongue that's indicative of ama. And we know that that's going to ignite the digestive fire.
Yeah,
We would recommend.
similar diagnosis, similar diet. We
Awesome.
have a white coating with kind of
Yes.
almost slightly swollen, so you get kind of scalloped shape
Yes.
down the side of that. And I know also you specialize in gut health. That's very interesting. Would be very dampness would again lead to kind of overgrowth of candida, these kind of very damp, musty, murky conditions. How would you dry off that in Ayurveda?
So in Ayurveda, we teach that we have a gut digestive fire. This campfire is how I think of it. And that campfire inside of our gut is to be honored and revered and respected. And so I take the different tools of Ayurveda, the self-care rituals and the detoxing tools and the diet and lifestyle, and think of it as, okay, you woke up in the morning. How are you going to ignite that fire? Can you have ginger lemon tea? Can you use tongue scraping? Can you even consider oil pulling? We teach coconut or sesame oil pulling to again draw out the impurities in the mouth, because this is the beginning, we know now, of our gut microbiome. But isn't it interesting? Our ancient cultures knew 5,000 years ago, everything starts here. And we know oral health through science is tied to heart health and everything else. And so we would do that first, I would say the tongue scraping, then moving in the morning is so important. In Ayurveda, we're a sister science to yoga. So move, in your case, it would probably be Qi Gong and different types of movements. In our case, we're like that yogic deliberate movement. And if you think about it, when you go to yoga, sometimes you're really twisting. And what are you doing? You're wringing things out. You're allowing those organs to get rid of that accumulation of toxins. That's going to further help us reduce that dampness. And then we very much teach about herbs and spices. So turmeric, ginger, all these different spices are warming and they are gut protective. They go in there and ignite the digestive fire. They protect us and support us. And then really consciousness around eating, because a lot of times in the West, we'll walk into a restaurant and we're like, sure, I'll have my ice water right before I eat my meal. I'll just shut off the fire that's there to now digest and assimilate and absorb my nutrition, which makes no sense at all. So anytime we sit at a restaurant, I'm like, no ice, please. I'll have hot water with lemon, please. And I'll just barely sip it, because you don't want to dilute what you're about to eat. So there's a lot of practices around reducing that dampness. And then there's eating easy to digest foods, because if we're going to eat those really hard to digest salads and raw vegetables, although modern day times is saying it's healthy, it's not actually healthy for that accumulation or that situation in the body.
Absolutely. So in Chinese medicine, the liver would love raw, but the spleen hates raw. So that first thing in the morning, if you want to have your smoothie, you have that kind of like an 11 or 12. You have it when already the fire has risen. So we're not having cold foods in the morning. And the spices that you talked about, the turmeric, the cinnamon, the cumin, these kind of spices very much are used with the pungent flavor, which clears the lung and the large intestine. So when we breathe, with the lung, and we should be massaging the lower belly, really that belly breathing. Yeah. Sometimes I do find, though, that this kind of, especially I found it with COVID and long COVID, that clients were coming and they were kind of being prescribed these kind of very warming, these very moving spices, whereas actually they were too exhausted, and that kind of movement was too exhausting. So to really build that yin, and I see that quite a lot with the yin depletion. And I just wonder, how does Ayurveda view that? That kind of, in Chinese medicine, it would be about the kidneys, building the real kind of essence and the foundation, the skeleton, the bone marrow, because it's all very well and good expelling the toxins or expelling, but we need that fundamental energy to lift and expand. And how would you view, or how would you view that?
Sure. So when it comes to what you're talking about, we call that ojas, and we call that fire agni. And so this big reverence for that fire is life force. It's everything. And that fire is meant to be honored and revered, like I said. So let's say every morning you're having self-care practices and it's like freezing cold water, freezing cold plunges, freezing cold shakes, all these things. It's completely depleting you instead of rebuilding you. And ojas is the byproduct of beautiful and healthy absorption of healthy and good foods. So anytime I've had a surgery or a huge stressful life event, I really look at those things as something that knocked you out, just knocked you flat. We know gut health is going to be damaged from any huge stressful life events. We know that if we have surgery or any big medical issue, that's a trauma to the body. And so I look at it as, okay, time to build the foundation. How do you build ojas? It's by loving the gut, loving the body, feeding yourself such nourishing foods, but gentle foods. We use ghee. We use different fruits and vegetables that are so beneficial. We use almonds, things that rebuild strength. Like you're trying to rebuild the body from the ground up, from zero. And a lot of us have to do that at different points in our lives. But if we skip over it, if we say, okay, I'm all better. I was sick and now I'm better. I'm just going to go back to normal life. We're kind of skipping over rebuilding the foundation of the house. And thus we're always going to be chasing our tail and coming from a place of empty.
Absolutely. So in Chinese medicine, they would be with on the whole around the kidney, which would be the salty flavor. So we would have kind of bone broth, seaweed, black sesame. The colors would be black and blue in color. Would also Ayurveda relate to colors? How are they represented in the body?
It's interesting. We think of it as very seasonal foods. And because the seasons tie to the doshas, the seasons kind of help you understand, okay, like if I have someone with a vata imbalance or they're feeling ungrounded, I would give them vata balancing foods. Those are the root vegetables, beets, sweet potatoes, squashes. Anything that's coming out of the earth is going to be more grounding and supportive. Turmeric and ginger. But yes, maybe we are moderating in it. Maybe we shouldn't go too hard on the system because the system needs a minute. We like rice. We like things that are warming in nature to the body. You have to be careful, but coconut oil, even dates, like you said, those more earthy foods are very beneficial. Almond milk, anything that's going to ground them down is supportive.
Oh, I feel the nourishment already. The dates, the almond milk. It's just, it's a real comfort. It's a real comfort. Delicious. And we've strayed off topic slightly. So talking more about, because people often, who doesn't, want a quick fix.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I would say to people that it's really individual. There is no one size fits all. Like, for example, I can't eat broccoli. I can't eat broccoli. And of course, it's the only vegetable that my teenage boys will eat.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with broccoli. It just doesn't suit me. And the same with most foods. Whereas I think not everybody, a lot of people tend to really want that quick food fix.
Yeah.
What is good for me? So that self-care is absolutely essential so that you get to know you. You know what you've eaten. You've been conscious of even when you pick up a glass, you can kind of get a sense of it, of kind of like, yeah, this is going to do me good. Or you know that it's not really kind of suiting you, that one size doesn't fit all. But saying that, could we work out some of the things, like I said, some of the things that really suit well in Chinese medicine for reducing pain would be things that would be clearing the liver. So not eating after 7 o'clock at night.
Correct.
Big time, not eating 7 o'clock at night, cutting out refined carbs, refined sugars, and alcohol. Any tips?
Inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are inflammatory foods. So yeah, we would approach it the same way. In Ayurveda, we obviously don't want you to be in pain. We want you to feel vibrant. If we're in pain, we're not going to move as much. We're not going to get out in nature. We're not going to have our quality of life and be able to really be functional to do everything we want to do. And so for me, I have always looked at pain as, okay, what's happening? And intuitively try to tune in. What have I done? What is not working? Like you said, I can't eat Brussels sprouts. I like them. Never digest well. It always hurts. And my body afterwards is always like, why did you do that? You ruined a perfectly great meal by eating Brussels sprouts in that restaurant. It's just too hard on my system.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ayurveda looks at inflammation and pain as cut those inflammatory foods. What's interesting is it's an ancient science. So we didn't even have a lot of these foods back then. So I teach it as cut the gluten, dairy. Sometimes dairy is not tolerated by people. We know gluten oftentimes is inflammatory to a lot of people. So just cutting it and getting it off the table for a little bit can kind of help reset the system and allow that inflammation to come down so the system can self-heal. We know the body wants to heal itself. It's just a lot of our outside interference is getting in the way. And then I teach sugar, any processed food, any food with seed oils, alcohol, and then sometimes red meat based on your digestion and where you're at in the moment. I'll ask people cut red meat for 2 weeks just to give the system a break. Because in Ayurveda, when I detox someone, we're going to use nourishing foods like khichdi. We're going to use ginger and spices. We're going to lovingly, in the right quantity, give these things. And then I also believe in getting out of pain fast so that we can just move on. And so I teach about turmeric and its benefits. And I've been on this journey. My PhD dissertation was on turmeric, the spice. And so I'm just a super fan of its applications in the body and how here in the West, we can start to use it more as a solution for pain. And once we're out of pain, let's talk about lifestyle, because you're not going to maintain any result if you don't address that root cause. Could be diet, could be exercise, could be sleep, could be our lifestyle self-care practices, stress management. So once I reduce pain significantly and inflammation significantly, I like to go look at that lifestyle shift.
So talk to me, what was your PhD title on turmeric?
Oh my gosh, it was years ago. I don't remember the title. It was probably something along the lines of turmeric, inflammation, and alternatives in Western medicine, because that's where I landed. I realized, wow, if turmeric was that effective, why didn't we use it instead of NSAIDs? Like, why are we constantly taking things that have side effects when all of ancient medicine has spices and we know they're so good? And so in the end, my conclusion was we need more study on apples to apples between curcumin black pepper versus curcumin healthy fat. And there's a lot of new science coming out on curcumin with telomeres and its applications for longevity. So further that science. And now it's been so many years since my PhD, so I get to be a part of furthering that science, which is really nice.
Very exciting, very exciting. Talk to me, what was the studies done on the telomeres and the turmeric?
So I only found a few studies, but they have shown that curcumin, when it comes to longevity, has an impact on sirtuins, AMPK pathways, apoptosis. So curcumin helps kill off cells that are not meant to be there. Curcumin will help kill off zombie cells. Sometimes we have these zombie cells in our body that are just mindlessly going around infecting or impacting other cells. And curcumin will just kill them off and get rid of them so the body can work more efficiently as we age. And we know aging is inevitable. The body's going to slow down. But I believe that if we want to live all these longer years, how do we do so while staying vibrant and healthy? So curcumin has been shown to extend our telomeres. So I'm working with Clemson University with a professor there, and we're studying what is it between our genes and why is it that curcumin is so well received by the body to create those shifts. So I'm very much a believer and we can show that ancient medicine is the best use in modern medicine right now.
Yeah, fantastic. And for anybody who doesn't know, telomeres are just the ends of the chromosome. And as we age and as the body stresses, whether that's environmental stress, even from the shampoo you use, the food you eat, the way that you live your life, this can speed up the unraveling of the telomere, the end of the chromosome, and damage the chromosomes, which help you reproduce healthy cells. So very interesting, and really keeping those telomeres very healthy is essential to longevity. And again, in Chinese medicine would be linked to the kidney and that essence food that we were talking about.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Super interesting. So I know that you have a lot of turmeric, but also you specialize in gut health.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about the gut health from the Ayurvedic perspective.
Sure. So at the beginning, I mentioned that idea of campfire. And so taking that example of campfire, when we think of the gut, I think of it as, okay, what is my job to keep this gut so healthy, so strong? Now we know about the gut microbiome and that diversity. Now we know that gut immune is connected, gut brain is connected. But it's so interesting that Ayurveda for thousands of years said gut is everything. It's the center of everything. It is your energy center. And so in modern day times, a lot of times we think of food as just, I'm just eating something. We think of food as like the gift that you are giving yourself to fuel this body and this engine to do everything that you want. And you should be consistently and constantly calibrating to your gut. So some days you might not have that same fire, and some days you might have it. So your body is constantly communicating with you. And if you can just intuitively tune in, your body will give you those answers. So I teach a simple self-care habit called tea time is me time. And I have tea a couple times a day. I know in Chinese medicine, you guys love teas and give people beautiful medicinal teas to heal things. I've done that many times from my acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine doctor. And so we do the same thing. We are big fans of taking plant medicine, plant magic, the intelligence of plants, putting them together into a synergistic formula to help drive a result. And so for me, that's the work a couple of years now is, can we build a functional tea that supports us, that will either help balance our hormones, will be adaptogenic, because again, gut brain, everything is connected, and our body is craving support, especially in this day and age where there's so much outside input coming at us. It's almost like you have to build your center and build that body, mind, and spirit alignment consciously, then work hard to maintain it so that you can have that health and vibrancy that you want. So I build formulas around teas and supplements and things using the ancient Ayurvedic herbs and spices.
Love it. I mean, if I look at 100 years ago, the amount that we've changed from having a job that was given to us, having defined which social strata we fitted into, and you didn't change. Whereas now we have a lot more choices to make. We have a lot more social flexibility, and most people have a lot more choice. And with that comes stress and responsibility. And so that constant check-in in your body, because you have to know the answers, is really essential. Because if you don't listen at first, your body will end up shouting at you, and it will give you more and more pain until you listen. So if we listen from the outset, then we don't always get and I think the other part, which is, I think, also the spread of literature and Buddhism and spirituality between India and China is also very interesting, all along that kind of trade route, that the whole kind of spirituality aspect was also, I mean, each place has its own flavor and what it took from it. Even the healing sounds, I'm sure that they're a very fundamental practice in Taoism. And I'm sure that there is something similar in Ayurveda. But that idea of having to really go within and trust the body and trust the self is really essential, and more so now that we have free will and more choices to make that just didn't exist for my mother or my mother's mother. Most definitely, she was born into a role and kept that role, and whilst that made her life stress-free in some ways, she also had a shorter life expectancy. The choices that we make really can fuel such heart opening. So I loved what you said as well about the large intestine being the kind of real powerhouse. It's the same in Chinese medicine. The kidney and the large intestine, all that is the lower dantian. We just have one middle dantian and upper. So this is vitality, love, communication, and wisdom.
Beautiful.
But it has to always come back down here because it's exhausting to live here.
Yes.
Tiring and overwhelming to live here.
Yeah.
So being in the seat, that gut mind, brilliant, brilliant.
Thank you. And I love that you explained that, because you're right. What a profound thought. We are given so many choices, and it's almost like choices is problematic because you're always striving. It's like you always see a ladder and there's always more to do, higher to go, more potential. And that's unending. That's going to constantly and consistently create stress on the mind, body, and spirit in opposite direction. And we very much believe in the chakras, and that energetic body system is what we believe. We are actually manifesting disease in the energetic body before we ever bring it in closer. And so a lot of times now, when you look at autoimmune disease and everything, I think the bigger question is, why are you battling with yourself? What is that battle? And how can we energetically, we're going to deal with it physically fine, but where's the mental, emotional, spiritual aspect? Because Ayurveda's whole goal is to bring body, mind, and spirit into alignment.
And unfortunately, I think the thing is that there's always the wanting to escape from pain and only have the nice experience. I just want a good cup of coffee. I just want, so we're full of what we want and what we don't want. And when we bring these a little bit back into alignment, then we have more equanimity about what is, because we don't get through life without pain and suffering. We don't. But we can make real loving choices, because at the end of the day, isn't that it? It's just about the loving choices we make for ourselves and for the people around us.
True. And sometimes pain is growth. If you work out and lift, that's growth. It's not fun when we're in there, but it's good for us. Same with yoga. Holding that pose isn't easy, but that's where the magic happens. It's where, the fire is lit. So yes, thank you for that reminder that escaping pain is not always the best answer for us.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate because Davey, my husband, has Parkinson's, as everybody now knows, because it's been there. We took it on social media last month for the Parkinson's Awareness Month, which was April. Sure. And for him to be cured of Parkinson's at the moment means that he has to come to a peace with having Parkinson's. And it doesn't make it any easier that he wakes up every morning and goes, still got it. Yeah. But he lives well with it. And that in its way is the cure. He still has the pain, but he lives with the pain and all the time makes those conscious choices about how to love myself more, how to love himself more.
Absolutely. Making peace.
It has been a joy. It's really been. I've really enjoyed that, because I know that we just kind of came together very serendipitously. You sent me an email. I was excited. I was like, yeah, let's have a chat. And my next month in Qi Flow is all about reducing pain. And I was like, oh, Shivani came at a good time. Good time.
Perfect.
So what else? Because I know we've talked a little bit about the gut and about the turmeric, and you had something else.
I was sharing that I built a product line called Fusionary Formulas. And I built it because I saw that in Western medicine, whenever I go to the doctor and I have pain, they give me NSAIDs and I don't tolerate those well. Those cause me stomach aches. And I thought, what if I could compel every orthopedic surgeon, rheumatologist, primary care doctor, that if a patient comes in pain and they're inflamed, you can offer turmeric as an adjunct solution right alongside your original solution. It's just another tool in the toolkit because a lot of patients don't want to take drugs. They don't tolerate them well. A lot of people can't even take NSAIDs. And so I built Fusionary about 10 years ago, decade ago now. And that's been my dream, is just to keep educating on that and share it with the world.
Thank you very much for coming and sharing with us this evening.